Good evening everyone and welcome to Rail 1. Tonight we're heading for the heights. Destination, the summit of Monte Brè. We'll be discovering Lugano from a different perspective under its beautiful sunshine. A city that's as touristic as it is railway driven. Our starting point is here, at Lugano's SBB station. We'll head down to the lakeshore, take a walk, and then board the Monte Brè Funicular. At the top, an exceptional panorama awaits. Welcome to Rail 1. To begin our journey, we leave Lugano station aboard a first funicular. It takes us right into the heart of the city. Operated by TPL, this funicular is very modern, automatic and equipped with large windows. In just a minute and a half, it connects the station to downtown Lugano. There's also a pedestrian path alongside the track, but between us, taking the funicular is much more pleasant and far less tiring. A few decades ago, there was another funicular, a little bit further away, near the hotel. Right, Christoph?
I'm standing on the Angel Stairway, right next to a little gem of Swiss heritage, the former Funiculare degli Angeli, or Angel's Funicular. This small line, 142 meters long, takes its name from the nearby church of the Lady of Our Angels. Until 1973, it belonged to the Bristol Hotel, before becoming municipal property. After the hotel closed in 1981, the funicular declined. Its last run was in 1986, a sad fate for such a beautiful structure. But there is still hope. Because of its unique Belle Époque tower and counterweight system, it has been listed since 2012 in the Swiss Inventory of Cultural Property of Regional Significance. The city of Lugano has also launched a project to redevelop the area and reconnect the upper and lower parts of the city, including plans to restore the funicular. The rest of the story is yet to be written. But the Angel's Funicular wasn't the first funicular in Lugano. When the line was built in 1874, the Gotthard Railway Company constructed the station outside the city to avoid overly steep gradients. Around the same time, funiculars were being introduced across Switzerland, so it was only natural to use this new technology to link the station to the city. After 6 months of construction, the station funicular opened on the 8th of November 1886. It was originally powered by a water counterweight system and its cars were open. Over time, it underwent several upgrades. In 1912, the open cars were replaced with enclosed ones. In the 1950s, the water counterweight system gave way to an electric drive. And finally, in 2015, the line underwent a complete overhaul. While the station and the Angel's Funicular are urban, the Monte Brè line is more of a mountain funicular, at least in its second section. In fact, reaching Monte Brè requires 2 funiculars. This stems from its origins. First, to develop tourism on the Suvigliana Plateau, and later to connect Monte Brè via the village of Aldissago. The first section connects Cassarate to Suvigliana and opened on the 10th of June 1908. At the time, Cassarate was linked to the city by tram. The second section followed shortly after, opening on the 17th of February 1912.
Before heading up to Monte Brè, let's take a moment to talk about Lugano. It's a city where life feels easy. Just look at this sun-drenched square, Piazza della Riforma. Lugano is also a complex railway hub. This is largely due to its position on one of Switzerland's most iconic lines, the Gotthard line, which runs from north to south across the country. This makes Lugano easily accessible from Basel, Olten, Lucerne, Zurich and even Milan. The city lies precisely at kilometre point 180.45. From the station, we decided to take the funicular all the way down to the lake. But we could easily have taken a completely different route towards Ponte Tressa, and that would mean leaving the city entirely. Back in Season 3, we featured this key tram train line used by commuters, a route set to change significantly in the coming years. In short, the current station will disappear, replaced by an underground station where this tram, train or metro will stop, before continuing on to a new terminus in the city centre. Major transformations that we will of course be following on Rail 1. So to sum up, we've talked about trains, trams, the future metro and the funicular. But we've left out the most important one, the rubber-tied train. Oh, I'm just kidding. Let's head towards Cassarate. Our ascent to the summit of Monte Brè begins after a pleasant walk along the lakeside. We could have taken the bus or even a boat to get there faster. The first section is very short, runs every 15 minutes and is fully automated. It takes us to Suvigliana, a historic interchange station. What really stands out at Suvigliana station is its distinctively rustic style, typical of the early 20th century. It belongs to the Heimatstil movement, literally homeland style, an architectural trend that highlights local traditions and a certain sense of national identity through construction. Here you can clearly see a solid stone base, firmly anchored in the ground, supporting a lighter wooden structure above. You'll also notice the projecting roof. It was designed first to cope with weather conditions, but it was also very common in public buildings of the time, with a more symbolic role, creating a sense of shelter, a protective kind of architecture. This style would eventually take hold across Switzerland, especially from 1914 onwards, with the National Exhibition in Bern, where a true Swiss village was presented. That event helped firmly establish the Heimatstil in construction, turning this traditional architecture into a reference throughout the country.
Bonjour.
Buongiorno.
Un billet, s'il vous plaît.
Volontiers, à vous.
Merci beaucoup.
Bonne journée. Au revoir. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anya, I'm 33 years old and I live in Ticino. I was born and raised in Bregasona, which is a village located right next to the funicular. Buongiorno. My career began with 2 diplomas in tailoring and clothing techniques. But I quickly realized it wasn't for me, so I decided to change direction. And in 2017 I had the opportunity to work at the Monte Brè Funicular. That was a huge motivation for me, because working outside in direct contact with nature has always been my dream. So I'm really happy to be here today. You don't need a license to operate the funicular, but you do need to complete a training program that includes a theoretical part, which is then applied to real-life situations. Over time, that practical experience becomes very important, and you develop specific skills simply by continuing to practice. There are several factors to take into account. You have to pay very close attention to the outside environment, because certain problems can arise, so you also need to be able to anticipate certain situations. Operating the funicular doesn't involve that many steps, but they're all essential for the system to function properly and to carry out a full journey from start to finish. We use control buttons, and we also rely on a screen with intermediate stops, all of which covers exactly how the funicular operates during a run.
the summit of Monte Brè. We wish you a pleasant stay.
Working on the funicular is not monotonous because we are always in contact with people coming from different parts of the world. There are also varied tasks throughout the day, so it is not only customer service. You just have to look at the weather. As soon as it changes, you are already in a different situation. So you have to adapt, and every day is different. Often we have the opportunity and the good fortune to see wild animals. For example, a few years ago, during one of the runs, I saw a female roe deer crossing the tracks with her fawn right behind her. But the little one could not move forward. It stumbled on the cable. And the mother waited for it on the other side, and the fawn managed to get free and rejoin his mother. Yes.
Hi Roberto,
Hi, Matisse.
how are you?
Very well.
Wow, this is absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for welcoming us. You're the director of Monte Brè Funicular for TPL and FLP. So how would you describe the Monte Brè Funicular as a company?
The Cassarate Monte Brè Funicular is one of Lugano's main tourist attractions. From the shores of Lake Lugano, we reach an altitude of 933 meters using two funiculars, one fully automated and the other with drivers on board, all in just 15 minutes.
Tell me, how many people actually work here on the site?
The facility is run by the operators, that is, the operating staff, as well as the technical staff and the office, altogether 8 people, depending on the season. That said, thanks to our collaborations with TPL, we can also benefit from all services in a coordinated way, from marketing to communication and accounting, in short, all TPL services.
To get here, we took a first automatic funicular from Cassarate to Suvigliana. Tell me, why is this route separate and autonomous?
According to historical documents, for geological and topographical reasons, it wasn't possible to connect the first and second sections, particularly because of the very great difference in elevation between the two. But there was also a real urgency to link the lower part of the city to the hill, because the first private and tourist developments were appearing. So it was decided to launch the first section immediately, and it was completed in only 11 months.
The second section brings us up here with this beautiful view behind you. Can people come up to the summit of Monte Brè all year round?
Of course, and each season has its charm. In spring, with a mild and sunny climate, you can see very beautiful flowers. In summer, you enjoy the coolness at 933 meters above sea level. In autumn, there is all the beauty of the colors. And in winter, it is not unusual to see snow and roe deer looking for food.
How many visitors come up here to the summit each year?
In 2025, we carried nearly 190,000 passengers. In recent years, we have been growing steadily, and the first figures for 2026 confirm this trend once again.
Up here it really feels like a world of its own. There are restaurants, apartments. You can clearly see how important the funicular is at the summit.
The summit is a destination of arrival, but also a place to live. There are many different activities on offer here, especially for families as well. We have also recently renovated apartments in the original 1912 building in Liberty style. From the summit, you can also reach the village of Brè. Originally, the funicular was used to carry residents who wanted to go down into town, because there was no road and they had to use very steep paths. That is how they began using it in everyday life. And even today, there are several residents who still use it to go down into the town.
Thank you, Roberto, for taking the time to speak with us today, and see you soon on Rail 1.
Thank you very much, Mattis.
Welcome to the summit of Monte Brè, where we have just arrived with our funicular entirely powered by solar energy. Right next to me, in the funicular buildings, we have installed a photovoltaic system that allows the funiculars to run on solar power. And in a moment, we will show you how the machine room works and the system of photovoltaics. The possibility of a traction cable breaking is extremely remote, as these cables are inspected at regular intervals. But in the extremely unlikely event that such an unusual situation were to occur, the funicular is equipped with a spring-loaded braking system, which, upon detecting a cable break, grips the rail and brings the funicular to an immediate stop. We're now at the upper station of the first section, a fully automated funicular just under 300 meters in length with a gradient of 60%. The entire operation is monitored from the TPL control center. We're now at the upper station of our funicular, where, thanks to the recent upgrade, we've been able to install elevators, providing access for people with reduced mobility or disabilities. As part of this renewal, we've also created a dedicated compartment for them, along with these elevators that remove architectural barriers and make access much easier. We're very happy to be able to welcome people with disabilities to the summit of Monte Brè. From an aesthetic point of view, these cars have a vintage look that we wanted to preserve, precisely to recall the design of the old cars of the past. On the other hand, for passengers, we really worked on comfort and on the travel experience. The old cars had a temperature problem, in the sense that during the summer months it was very hot inside the funicular. We therefore introduced a ventilation system that allows passengers to enjoy a more comfortable journey, with more pleasant temperatures. Another special feature is passenger information. We installed audio systems that allow the operators to address passengers easily and give them all the necessary information. But what I personally prefer is the outward view. In the old cars, there were full height compartments that prevented you from seeing beyond your own space. Today, these compartments have been lowered, panoramic windows have been installed in the ceiling, and the front window is panoramic as well. All this allows us to enjoy a truly spectacular view over the city of Lugano. The line retains its original viaducts and tunnels. Over the years, maintenance work has been carried out to keep them in good condition and guarantee safety. Another special feature is, for example, these blocks that we have installed in the line in place of the pulleys. Before, there were pulleys all along the route, and some caused maintenance problems. In looking for solutions, we found a material that allows the cable to slide without being damaged, while eliminating the problems linked to the rolling of the pulleys.
Hi Isabel.
Hi, Matisse.
We're heading down from the summit of Monte Brè. We're walking, but there's actually quite a lot you can do up here.
Yes, absolutely. There are lots of activities such as mountain biking, there are restaurants, there are things for families to do, and there's even also a visit to the village of Brè, especially if you're into art and culture.
We've been hearing the name Brè since the start of the show. But where does it come from, Monte Brè, the village of Brè?
It has Celtic origins with quite an interesting root. It comes from the word briga, and briga means hill or height.
And the village of Brè itself is really an attraction. So when you get up here by funicular, how can you explore it?
There are several possible paths, and here we are taking the one which, in my opinion, is the most beautiful, the most panoramic, and which takes us easily with several viewpoints that we will see a little further on, all the way to the village of Brè.
So it's this way?
Yes, exactly, this way. So let's go.
You can feel that Brè is a very typical Ticino village.
Yes, it really is a typically Ticino village. It is very rural. But what makes it so very special is that the locals are very attached to the artworks you see here. And they are very proud of this artistic trail, the Pasquale Gilardi Lelen. He was a dialect poet and a sculptor of his time who left his mark here throughout these beautiful streets of the village.
We've been walking around the village for a few minutes now, and you really do see a lot of artworks. Who created them?
These works that we see in the village of Brè in the various streets are about 20 creations by artists who are part of the Pasquale Gilardi circle known as Lelen. It is a route to discover, like an open-air museum accessible to everyone.
And this piece here feels a bit special, the one we're standing next to. Is that because it was made by the locals?
Let's say it is, in my view, quite a special piece, because it was also created with the patriziato of Brè, that is, with the villagers. The idea was to represent the objects that used to be employed for cooking and for daily life, in a spirit closely tied to the village life and its rural character.
And here in the village there's also a museum dedicated to a painter who lived here.
Yes, exactly. It is Wilhelm Schmidt, a painter from the New Objectivity movement. He was Swiss, linked to this movement of German origin, and he lived here until 1971.
There's a really special atmosphere as you walk through the village. Is there a time of year you'd recommend coming here to the village of Brè?
Now listen, it is always a great time to visit the village of Brè in any season. With snow, it is really very beautiful, very romantic too, and you see the colors a little differently. In spring, there is also all the blossom. And in summer, it is cooler here, since we are at almost 1,000 meters above sea level. So yes, all the seasons are beautiful for discovering the village of Brè, where everyone is welcome.
Thanks, Isabel, for the tour. See you soon.
Thank you very much as well. It was a pleasure. See you soon.
This is the end of this episode devoted to Monte Brè. Thank you to all those who made it possible: Lugano region, the Monte Brè Funicular and TPL. And above all, thank you for your loyalty throughout this season. We look forward to seeing you again very soon for a new episode on Rail 1. Ciao!